Hey friends, I'm here. This is a perfect Memphis spring day sitting outside at one of the best places I know to read. And I want to think right now about something that we do. A lot of people walk in our building and think that we only have books about theology, ministry, biblical studies, and that is certainly the core of our collection. But occasionally, we try to keep up with books that weren't necessarily written for that audience that we think can be really helpful to ministers and to church leaders. And I have one today that I think is super. And if you're in a leadership of a group and you're kind of looking for something and looking for a new angle and something new and a quick read that can give you a few principles to give you some freshness in your life, I have a book for you today. It's called The Culture Code by Daniel Coyle. And what he looks at is organizations that have distinguished themselves from others because of their culture. And what he basically looks at is that there's groups in the world that basically don't have any noticeable advantages over their competitors and yet always seem to perform a little bit better. You know that at the beginning when the internet was getting started, there was a bunch of different search engines, and next thing you know, Google went from being a company to being a verb. You know, there's a lot of good NBA teams, but the San Antonio Spurs are always there in consistent quality. And there's other groups you can think about, like the Navy SEALs and other groups who have a culture that means they are always consistently doing a really good job and providing good quality. But you may be a part of a group, or you may know a church that you're with, that you've just had a really hard time kind of embracing a positive culture. You might have more dissent than you would like. You might have division. You might have a certain kind of stuck in the rut sort of mentality. And he's going to give some principles here that'll help groups embrace a positive culture and kind of move forward. He does it based on 3 principles. Here we go. I want you to listen up as we do these. The number one is you have to create a safe environment. Now, when he says safety, he's not talking about making people feel comfortable in a lazy sort of way or not being challenged. Here's what he means by safety is you got to know that people have got your back. That if you're going to have a great organization, if we're going to be part of a great group, we need to know that if we trip and fall, somebody else will be there to get us. And so he says you got to provide safety. You can't have a culture where everybody's looking over their shoulder, believing that people are talking about them, that people are tearing their work down, and that people are second guessing them. You're not going to get the best out of people. People need to thrive on confidence, and that's going to be when they believe other people have their back. The second thing he says is we need to share the vulnerability. You know, sometimes in groups we wonder why everybody's not pitching in and doing something. And one of the reasons is they have no opportunity for failure. They have no potential to lose. And so if we absorb as a leader, if we absorb all the responsibility, then we shouldn't be surprised that other people don't feel the need to pitch in. You know, this happens with families. Sometimes if you give your kids some responsibility, you notice they start taking things really seriously. I had this happen when I was a kid, and it happens to our kids today. You give kids money in advance before you go to a store, and you say, okay, you can choose to buy something with your money. They start being a whole lot more careful about their decisions. They're not going to waste their money. It's their money now, not your money. Share the vulnerability. Sometimes if people feel a shared sense that they have something to lose, we'll see a renewed sense in their ability to contribute. Finally, we have to have a shared message relative to our purpose. You know, in organizations and stuff, I find this even in my work as a librarian. You might find this in your work as a minister or a church leader, that sometimes it's hard to even describe what it is we do. If somebody interrupts you on your way to work and they say, hey, what is it you do? Next thing you know, you're giving them a 9-minute description of your job description, but not really a really concise mission of purpose. You know, if we can't talk in our workplaces about what we do, it's pretty hard to articulate that message to the public. And so he says you got to have that. So remember, here we go. First, you got to have a safe environment. Second, share the vulnerability. Third, you need to be able to articulate your purpose. If you can do those things, we're going to have a positive culture. And if we have a positive culture, we might find we go from being an average group to a great group. So, books like this, maybe something you would add to your summer reading list. We're going to be doing a few more through the summer to give you some ideas if you have some downtime of things you might want to read. I encourage you. Look forward to that. We'll see you next time.